Hey, Greg, DIY RV Home Camper's Life. Today I need to take care of working on my Hughes Watchdog here. It's my 30 amp one. And what had happened was the last time we were at a campground plugged into power, I had noticed that the plug didn't look that great, or excuse me, the outlet didn't look that great. But I was only just going to be keeping my batteries charged and just minor draw on the system. I wasn't going to be running the microwave. I wasn't going to be running AC or anything like that. So I went ahead and plugged in. I should not have. My fault. So the next morning when I unplugged, I found that my hot leg on my surge protector here, the Watchdog, was starting to melt. What that is that there was too much resistance between the connection there, causing this blade to heat up, which started to melt this around here. So we just need to replace it because there's damage to it. Now I went online, found some outlets. 30 amp Hughes has the pull ring to pull it out instead of yanking on the cord. So let's go ahead and replace it. It's going to take a pair of cable cutters or a really good pair of snips, got a utility knife, and Phillips blade so far. Maybe when we open the package up we might need something else, but right now that's what we're going to start with. So let's go ahead and we're going to cut this end off. We're just cut it real tight up here so we don't lose that much on the cord. Just like that, we've got it off. Now we can see we've got three colors there. We've got a black, green, and white. Okay, what we're gonna do also, just to make sure that we do it right, use a multimeter to check to make sure we're wiring this up correctly. We don't want to reverse polarity. We don't want to put the ground in the wrong spot. So it's always best to have one of those. So that's another tool that we're going to be using. The unboxing is always the funnest. There we go. Oh, check this out. Huh? Well, let's get it unscrewed first real quick. Yes, I'm cheap. At least take it off. All right, so we've got two screws here. I'm sure these screws are going to be for the strain relief to help keep the cord on the plug. And then we have three that actually hold the case together. Once we get it apart, we find that they sent us some instructions, or as I call instructions, but in this case, they're very pertinent to the repair. They give us some good measurements as to how to cut the wires and get them stripped back, and it also helps with the proper wiring. So we're not going to throw this away today. We're going to save it. All right, I am going to be following their instructions completely on how far to cut back the sheathing and trim the wires, because inside here the wire will come through here, the sheathing, and then it'll be removed, and we'll have three strands, one going to each leg here. And as I see inside here, I like this. I see that it is color coded: green, white, black. So they help you in multiple ways to make sure you wire this up correctly. So first thing they want is 60 millimeters of the sheathing removed. So we are going to go 60 millimeters. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my utility knife and I'm going to lightly score. I'm not going to cut real hard. Because you do not want to go through the sheathing into the other wires. And then I'm just going to kind of roll it around a little bit. Get it stressed a little bit like that. And I'll come back in and just slowly take my knife, my utility knife, and just kind of touch the sheathing. What I'm doing is I'm actually cutting it. As you can see right there, I just broke away, and now I see the white wire. If done right, I might be able to just get the whole, well, nope, I'm just gonna have to touch it a little bit more. Roll it. This is how I do it. I take my time. There we go, we're starting to get that. One last spot to do. And there it is. Now we can take it off. And let's get a close-up look and see there is no damage to any of the wires, the sheathing on the wires. Now, next one is, looks like we are going to be doing 50 millimeters on the black and white wire. So we're going to come back in here and we're going to find 50 millimeters. I'm going to just do it off camera real quick. Bink. Now that we got the big sheathing off, we can take our small snippers and come in and actually do that. So we're going to cut our black and white down to the 50. There we go. Just like that. Next thing is they want 12 millimeters stripped to bare wire. Okay. Now once again, I'm just gonna use my utility knife, but I'm not all I'm doing is just pressing on it, and that's it. I'm not using it to slice. There we go. We have no damage to any of the wires. And that's what you want. You don't want to damage the wires. Damaging the wires takes away and actually can cause more issues than good. So I'm going to go ahead. I can take this piece that I just used, that I just took off, use that as a template to measure. Let me do this off camera again. All right, I think that was a millimeter or two longer than the other ones, but that's all right. As long as it's right there, you know. Next, we're going to go ahead and take our blades out and our ground lug. Get that out of the way. We're going to go ahead and feed our wires through. Now we could have done this, the stripping of the wires, after we did this, but I just kind of like to do it beforehand. That way it's not as hard to do. So there's something we can do. We can just put this stress release over the wire, and then we'll go ahead and wire up our lugs. Then we can start setting stuff into the cap. Now on these lugs, we're going to mess with the ground first. We'll loosen it up, and as we loosen it up, you'll see that this one, it separates open, and there's a piece of copper there that's opening. You're going to want to put that wire in between that copper spacer, washer, and the backside. Make sure all the wires are in there. You can twist it around to help it. And then what you're going to do, you want to make sure all the wires get in there. So real nice and easy. Set it in there. There we go. Just like that. Now we'll tighten it up. And you want to make sure that you're tightening up the wires. You're not crimping the sheathing, because the sheathing will give you a false crimp. Let me get the other two blades on, and then we'll get it installed into the cap. Now I'm using just a pair of needle nose to hold onto the blade right as close to where I'm tightening the screw as possible. That way I can get a good tight, and then I can actually go back and do one final before we close it up. Okay, so here's what we've got so far. We've got our ground, we've got our neutral, and we've got our hot set. Now we're going to go ahead and set it into the cap. I'm going to start with my ground, put my ground in, come down, and make sure I put the right one in the right hole. You know what? I think I'm going to go like this. I'm going to put my black in first, or my white in. Make sure everything looks good. Come in and do my black wire. Get that pressed in. So we got those two in place. Now, next and last, we're going to go ahead and grab the ground. We're going to shove the ground in. Make sure everything's how it should be. Okay, so there it is. We've got it there. So now, before I go ahead and close everything up, I want to take one more time, come back in, and make sure that the screws are tight. The wires are not coming out. Everything feels good. Take our strain relief, make sure the strain relief is in the groove of the strain relief is in the proper position on the plug cap. We'll take the clamp for the strain relief, set that over, and then using the two machine style screws, we're going to go ahead and re-secure this. And those go from the outside of the case okay, I've got it started. Now I'm going to take it down evenly. I'm just making sure it feels good as it's going down. I'm not pinching anything. You know, it's hard to do, but there is always an option of, there is always the chance of doing something. So just take your time, go back and forth, get it tight. On this one, the strap went all the way against the plastic of the housing. I've seen it in the past where there has been gaps on stuff, so just take your time. You don't want to overdo it, but as you see, it's not going anywhere. Our wires is looking good. Now, we're going to take the back cap, put it over, and make sure everything feels good before we put the screws on. And if need be, we will adjust. And just like that, we can see that it is properly placed all the way around. We're not having to force it, and there's no screws in it yet. So now we can take the 3 screws that put the cap together and install them. Now if you want, you can cheat, you can use your little drill, but don't go too crazy. Just easily take them down. Now go ahead and use your standard Phillips. Finish tightening everything up. Boom, boom, boom. And if I didn't say so, make sure that your locking ring is still on. Well, there we go. Damaged plug replaced. The new plug from Hughes. Now we've got this together. I did say I was going to use a multimeter to test this, and what I would have done if they hadn't supplied very good instructions, also along with indicators on the cap itself, where the wires are supposed to go, I would have just taken a multimeter and I would have taken it to the setting of continuity. I've got mine set for an audible continuity test. So if I test it, I'm going to hear a beep. So now what I would have done is I would have taken and I would have said, okay, I want to find out what this blade is for, or is going to. I would have touched and I would have come around, and that is actually the hot. So it was actually the neutral that got hot for me. I was mistaken on that earlier. So let's act like we don't know where's what. We're gonna touch this one. We don't know what it is. So we're gonna try a white, no continuity. Black, no continuity. Hit that green, we hear the tone. That means that this blade or this lug right here is ground. Come over here, hit this one. And again, I just realized that I was saying that it was the hot that was melting. It was actually the common, but here, let's come back and let's hit. No tone on green, no tone on white, tone on black. So that is a very good way to tell what wire is going to what blade. And then I would just match it up with the proper one on that side. Hope you guys got something out of this. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe, share. And until the next time, happy camping.